This time on Ask Rad Rat, we're talking about the artistic quality of skateboarding versus other sports. Let's do it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel where you can learn new things about skateboarding. I talk about all different kinds of skateboarding topics on this channel, from talking about skateboarding games to news to answering your questions on this series, Ask Rad Rat. You can submit your own questions on radratvideo.com. Let's do this. First one is from Jimbles, who says, "Hey, I had a question I'd like you to answer on your channel. Have there been any professional street skateboarders who also went pro in surfing or snowboarding and vice versa? I know it's possible for vert skaters and snowboarding." Sean White. So I did some research on this, and it's hard to find any specific people who crossed over like that. There was a guy I found named Tom Sims, who was a big name in starting snowboarding and refining shapes and all that kind of stuff, and he originally came from skateboarding, probably surfing before that as well, I'm not sure, but that was the only one that came to mind. So, and by came to mind, I mean in my heavy research on it, it was the only one I really found. There are lots of people who do both, but who are actually pro in both, except for Sean White. I'm not entirely sure. So I thought I'd just give you that quick example that you can look up, and hopefully people in the comments will chime in and give you some more. Next one is from IA, who says, "Could you do a video on how to differ body rotations from board rotations in trick names? I feel like there's a lot of confusion in this field. For instance, a backside 360 kickflip is being considered a trick where your body and board does a 360, yet tray flip, that is also backside, it could be named the exact same thing, just the body doesn't rotate." So basically he's asking backside 360 kickflip versus backside kickflip 360. Like, how do you make sure that you are being clear that you are spinning with the board or not? Now, me, if I hear 360 kickflip, I would assume you meant you spun with it, because no one says that for a 360 flip. You can say 360 flip or tray flip or 3 flip, and those mean 360 flip. If you say a longer thing or you phrase it a little bit different, I'm going to assume that you're spinning with it. Backside 360 kickflip makes it obvious that you are spinning backside and doing a 360 and a kickflip. So that one, I think you're okay just adding in any other way or rearranging the word somehow. It makes it kind of obvious. I used to say 360 ollie kickflip, but that seems a little bit weird. So yeah, that one I think is not that hard to distinguish, because no one says anything other than 360 flip. Back in the day, though, they did say 360 kickflip. They would spell it out, but I guess they had just never thought of the concept that someone might eventually be able to do a 360 and a kickflip at the same time. But yeah, so for that one, 360 kickflip, frontside 360 kickflip, backside 360 kickflip, I think that gets the job done. Fakie is easy because it's just cab. Switch would be the same as normal, but for nollie, I say nollie or 360 nollie flip. That's a, it's doing a 360 while you do a nollie flip. That one I think works. I don't hear other people say that ever. Some people say like nollie cab flip, which don't say that because that's wrong, but 360 nollie kickflip, nollie 360 kickflip. Yeah, because again, it's not that hard to distinguish between 360 flip and 360 kickflip. Now, we got lucky with heel flips, because you don't say 360 heel flip, you say a laser flip, so you're okay with that. So just adding in a spin direction helps. Saying kick flip instead of flip will help as well, and then you should be okay. Okay, next question is from Alex, who says, "If a board went really high up your butt, would you still be able to poo? I'm talking, it would take an operation to get it out, and would that damage your butt?" I forgot that I put that question in there. I just picked it because it's funny. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Wear pants while you're skateboarding and you'll be okay. Like, what are the chances of that happening? And how would that even happen? Like, your board's 8 inches wide. Come on. I don't know. I threw that in there for your amusement and for mine. Okay. Last question is for Felix. He says, "What is your take on the artistic quality of skateboarding as opposed to other types of sports? Like, would you lean it toward a relativistic point of view where every sports person is like, my sport is an art, it's just outsiders that fail to acknowledge it, or an absolute position, skateboarding is unique in that the art component appears nowhere else, or something else entirely. I would say that skateboarding is objectively more artistic than team sports. Now you could say, like, you know, scootering or BMX or whatever are going to be equal in artistic quality. Like, I might not enjoy that as much. Although I do understand scootering now. I finally understand why it's a thing. I think I talked about it before in a video, but it's just easier to do stuff. Like, if you have to learn how to grind on that rail, the easiest thing you can do is start scootering, because you can just pull it with you. You can jump up onto it, you can jump off of it. It's a lot easier than trying to learn how to ollie. That can take you a week, you know, learning how to push and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's beside the point. I think skateboarding and BMX and all that stuff are more artistic as a base fact about skateboarding. It has to be, because even if you see something in a skate video and you want to replicate it exactly, you can't unless you live there. You have to adapt that somehow to your spot. That might just mean it's a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but you may have to reflow how the whole thing works. You know, if it's a line, for example, you might have a ton of extra of room between the first ledge and the stairs at the end. So what are you going to do? Well, you can fill the space with a couple different tricks. What tricks are you going to do? Are you going to spin and then spin again to get back to normal? Are you going to do them both the same way? So you spin and then you land and you spin some more. Are you going to do this line very fast so you don't have to do 2 tricks, you only have to do 1? Are you going to do, like, what trick are you going to do on the ledge? You're going to come out forward, or are you going to come out fakie? Are you going to try to, you know, like, there's a million different ways you can do anything in skateboarding, and your choices are going to be independent of anyone else's. You might copy your friends at first when you're first getting started, and you are just learning how to kickflip, and you're learning how to pop shove it, and you're learning how to do the basics. You're going to be the same as anyone else, but once you get pretty good at it, those questions are going to have to be answered. You're going to have to do it your own way. There's people who will do things different ways. So, like, there are guys who skate super fast and they just like doing everything crazy fast and blasting over gaps all the time. There are people who like to do things that are more technical, and exactly what tricks you choose and how you choose to do them, and the style, like the physical way that you do it, the technique that you use, that's all independent, and that's of other people, and it's unique, and it will look like you, and only you did what you did. So for me, like, my style in street is nothing to write home about, but my trick selection might be. It's a little bit weird. I do more like freestyle inspired stuff, or I do more like weird, obscure street tricks. No one else skates exactly like I do. Some people are probably pretty close. There are people who are definitely better, but that's not the point. I do things in my own way. And so that's just tricks, but which spots you pick and how you choose to skate them is also a different thing. I know one thing that I hear people talk about sometimes is like how skateboarders see the world differently. Like, you just see an entryway to a building. I see stairs with a ledge next to it or something like that. And I think that's kind of a weak argument, because every skateboarder could imagine doing a 50-50 on a ledge. But when you get down to some weird spots, you know, can you kind of ride up that and hit it like a hip or something like that? Like, maybe you wouldn't even think that that's skatable. And you see Daewon Song out doing tricks on a rock somewhere. You wouldn't even think you could roll on it, and yet he somehow like does a blunt slide on one. There's definitely different techniques and styles and trick selections and spot selections, and all this stuff all add up together, and nobody is exactly alike. Now, in a team sport, being unique and interesting is not a virtue. You don't want that. You want to be able to fit in with a team, and you want to be able to get points, you know? And this team may be more, you know, like in basketball, this team may focus more on defense than offense, and your style may be more defensive, and you're really good at blocking shots, but you're not as good as layups or whatever. But that's not art. That's just like what you're good at. And there's part of that in skateboarding too. But you're not choosing how to do stuff in a certain way. You're doing it because it gets more points, you know? And I think that if skateboarding was purely competitive and everything was scored, you know, like in the Tony Hawk games, Every trick has a specific score. In real skateboarding competitions, it's not like that. If this guy and this guy do the same trick, they might get different scores because of how they do it. But in basketball or football or anything, getting ball into net is X points. And that's it. It doesn't matter how I got there. So you focus on doing things just to make it work. Now, in basketball, I've watched a guy at a dunk competition doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you could argue that that's just as artistic as skateboarding, sure, but that's not basketball. That's not like the main sport. But I do think about that sometimes, like if you took all of the best pro basketball players and you had them just show you the cool stuff they do in practice, I think they might have some really cool tricks, essentially. You know, if it's dunks or if it's a weird dribble thing that they can do, or they can like, you know, they can like throw the ball between their legs, bounce off their knee, and then bring it back over here and then pass it blind over there. But they wouldn't do that in a game because it's about points. It's about just beating the other team. It's not about looking cool as you do it. So it's not to say that they can't do artistic stuff, but it's not the point of it. You know, the most artistic guy who does the most unique stuff isn't going to be the best player. He might be fun to watch, but he's not. That's going to get beaten out of him by coaches and by whoever else. So I think tricks, skateboarding and other things like that, those kinds of sports that are for the individuals and not for a team, that are not scored, they are going to reward art at a more foundational level than basketball or football or something like that. So it's not necessarily inherent in the sport itself. If you and your buddies play basketball and you figure out a way to give like bonus score multipliers if it was cool the way you did it, it may be possible to figure something out like that. You know, like if you every basket is worth 10 points, but every step you take subtracts a point. So you got to figure out a way to, like, you could figure out some weird sub games in basketball that would reward art and like creative thought processes and weird ways to bounce the ball off of different stuff. But that's not how the sport is as a sport. And I think that's why we distinguish a sport from skateboarding and other things, which I still call a sport just because I don't know of a better word to use there. But yeah, skateboarding is definitely more artistic than all that other stuff at a foundational level. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. If you want to hear my thoughts on your question, go to radratvideo.com and submit a question on the homepage right there. And make sure you subscribe by tapping my logo right there so that you don't miss it when I do talk about it. And until then, check out some of the videos that YouTube is putting right there on the screen that it thinks you might enjoy. Thanks for watching.